All right. With that in mind, folks, let's jump over to our man Tim Ord. We talk to Tim every Tuesday and Thursday at 30 past the hour. We're getting Tim ready. And you can reach Tim at his website, every trading day, ord-oracle.com. And don't forget, folks, under the services tab, check out these webinars, okay? When you got time to kill, maybe you got some summer weekends, some summer nights, whatever it is, the secret science of market tops, how to identify market tops, and then you also have the 6 secret ratios every trader should know. Both of those webinars, $149. And the way it works is you sign up for the webinar, and then you gain access to it forever. It's always on your account page. You can watch it as many times as you like. Check it out, folks. Tim Ord, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. So, anyhow, should we start?
Let's dive into the charts, baby. That's why we're here. Let's do it.
All right. Okay. The first chart is the SPX tilt ratio on the weekly time frame. That's this chart up here. Next one lower is the SPX. And anyhow, this is the SPX tilt ratio on the weekly time frame. So this is a weekly time frame. But anyhow, what I want to point out, the SPX tilt ratio a lot of times leads the SPX. And I just want to point out, going back in early 2025, this ratio is making lower lows, and the SPX is making higher highs, and that's the divergence. So you got a pullback. But since basically it'd be May to the current time frame, the SPX has been making, this is a weekly, higher highs, and also the ratio, SPX tilt ratio, is making higher highs. But I want to really point out is, you see this little, right there today, the weekly SPX tilt ratio closed at a new high, if you can see that.
Yep.
And if you notice down here, the SPX, this is a weekly time frame, didn't close at a new high. Okay, that's relevant. Again, the SPX tilt ratio leads the SPX. What that says is, at some point, the SPX is going to close at a higher high. So even though we're consolidating here with yesterday and so far today, we haven't seen the end of this rally, put it that way, according to the weekly SPX tilt ratio compared to the SPX. That's what I want to point out right there. So we've been long here for June 25th. We'll see no reason at the moment to get out. So this short-term rally is still going on here. And here's another thing. This is the second window. The bottom window is the SPX. The SPY VIX ratio. This is on a daily, and the top window up here is the SPY.
You want to hang with us?
All right. Yeah, sure.
Perfect.
I'll hang with
Folks,
you.
we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be talking with the SPY. We're going to be talking the VIX. And these ratios are so awesome, Steve. Tim, I would listen to you and my dad talk about, of course, but the VIX is at 1683, so it's amazing, and I see how it ties in. We'll talk some SPY VIX, folks. We're coming back with Tim Ord. Don't go away. Welcome back, folks. We got the S&Ps off by single digits. NASDAQ 100 off by single digits as well. Dow off by 148. We're talking to our man Tim Ord. And yeah, don't forget, folks, head on over to the front page of TFNN. And as I mentioned, we're talking these ratios. They're right there, the 6 secret ratios. You can start off with those. One of those being the SPY VIX. And what I was saying there, Tim, at the end is pretty cool. Because I love the fact that they're not just ratios that come out of nowhere, as in it makes sense. This is pretty amazing how we have the VIX kind of dissipating here, right? And how that then is that, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that how you look at something like this ratio where, and you don't have to explain it all, but is that how? Because it makes sense, man. The VIX, man, nobody seems to be worried about this market, and that is usually, it can be bullish as you have the market. How do you look at that when you look at the SPY VIX for those that might not be as familiar? Does that make sense how I'm talking about that?
Yeah, well, the VIX actually goes down when usually the market goes up. So basically, if you ever look at a long-term VIX over the last several years, anything below 16 on the VIX is basically a lot of times you have a trending market. And it's pretty close to that, sometimes it's 18, and we're hitting it, we are. We're in that range right now.
Yeah. So it's a nice number. No, it is. Go ahead, please.
But anyhow, the VIX a lot of times trades the opposite of the SPY. If the SPY goes down, the VIX goes up, and vice versa. So that's the reason why I do the ratio, the SPX VIX ratio, because both of them, you can see the divergence a lot easier. So as the SPs go up, you want to see that ratio making higher highs as long as the SPX is making higher highs, or SPY, and that's what we have here. Starting basically in May, you know, the SP's kind of creeped up here, and the ratio is making higher highs. So that's what you want to see. So, but if we were making higher highs on the SPY, and that ratio is making lower highs, then that's something you got to watch out for.
And so it could be. And not to jump in, but it's so cool how it works, because it would be cool in that case, right, Tim, that you'd have an elevated VIX, like the market's going up, but there's a sign there, like the VIX is going up, and so the ratio has a problem, and the market's pricing in that people are paying more for insurance. So that's how I think about it, you know, which I think is so cool.
Right.
That it makes so much sense. It does. That's why I think those ratios are so cool, folks. Check out that webinar. It is, because it's awesome, Tim. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think it just makes so much sense.
I'm glad you do. So yeah, I want to answer your question. So this is, you know, if you got questions in your mind, the listeners have their questions too, probably the same ones you have.
It took me it's a complicated market enough, and then you get into the ratios. But I think once the people make that, and they're like, oh, wait a second, that's what this ratio is telling me, right? It's like, now I've listened to it. Like, yeah, I better be aware if the VIX is spiking, and this is going to tell you, folks, if the VIX is spiking, because the ratio is going to change, even if the market hasn't quite reacted yet, which is so cool.
Yeah, it's kind of a forward-looking indicator, kind of like tilt. You know, the tilt's the bond market, so you
totally
make relationships. Yeah, so that kind of leads the way.
What are yields doing? Yeah, right. Yields versus the market, yields. Totally.
So anyhow, but yeah, let's look at the bigger picture. We don't have a lot of time here, but we did have a breakout in. Mid-June. This is a weekly chart. We did close above the previous highs of February, and you did have a sign of strength. This is 255 million shares compared to the last high of 170 million shares. When you break a previous high, it has to be at least equal volume, if not higher. And we did that. Obviously, volume is a lot higher. So we broke above the previous highs. Now we got, 608, 609 support. So bigger trends up. Even the short-term trend, I think this mild consolidation we had a couple of days on the SP is just a timeout and an uptrend. I bet before the week's out, we're starting closing new highs. The reason why I say that is that tilt ratio, or the SPX tilt ratio, closed at a new high. So that leads the market. So anyhow, that's that. We got 4 minutes for the gold market here.
All right.
I put this at the June close. Just want to make a point there. We did close at 71.30 on the RSI on the XAU. This chart goes back to 1988, a long way back. And those red lines here show the times when the RSI closed above 70 on a monthly chart. And again, June closed at 31. So I'm not bearish here at all. I'm super bullish, but I think we'll get a pullback to around 75 on the XAU. So you just time out an uptrend, nothing real bad. This high tested this high on lighter volume. So we got, and this low here broke below this low. And if you notice, that low broke on higher volume. So at minimum, this low is going to be tested. And we're trying to test it right now. But this is a monthly chart, this is a weekly chart. But anyhow, in a nutshell, I think we're going to at least hit 45. And I think actually we'll get down to 40. So it's going to, the last part of the decline is usually the scariest, and that's the best time to buy. So nothing big there. But a lot of people kind of ask me, why do you pick out these gold stocks? Well, here it is. I actually have had this gold stock. I sold it, and actually I bought it a little bit higher, bought it wrong. But I did buy some right here, actually at 10.03 cents, and which was a little bit too quick. It was the bottom, but in a nutshell, this is the monthly. The stock is ROFF. It's Rio 2, whatever. But anyhow, you get a buy signal when you close above the mid-Bollinger Band on the monthly time frame, and you have to have a sign of strength on the close above that monthly time frame. That's the reason why I got right here, this day right there, close on a sign of strength through the mid Bollinger Band. You can see it there, and you got it back in here, same thing. You got to close above the mid Bollinger Band with the sign of strength. That's the highest volume you had going back to, I don't know, a couple of years. So this is a sign of strength day. So that's what I want to point out. And you stay long as that stock stays above the mid Bollinger Band. So which it did, and it started to pick up energy. You know, see how steep that rally's going there. Well, okay, you got your buy signal at, let's say you take the close, let's call it 30. And when you get a sell signal, that's when you get 100% above the upper Bollinger Band. There you did. So I'm out of this stock now. And there you did back in 2020. If you can see it, you're 100% above the Bollinger Band. This flipped sideways for a couple of months, and I don't know what's going to happen here. It's probably going to flip sideways. But this kind of reason why you're selling 100% above the upper Bollinger Band, you're 2 deviations away from the average mid part of that Bollinger Band. You're stretched too far past that limit. If you notice here, I drew a trend line when I was doing my analysis right there. So if you stay against that trend line, you just stay long. If you look how far you got from that trend line way up here. So this stock went parabolic. So in my opinion, you're going to at least pull back to the mid Bollinger Band. You're a heck of a long ways from it. Highballing it looks like you're about 50. But it's going to consolidate, you know, for months probably. So anyhow, that's how you pick gold stocks. You do it on the monthly time frame.
Great trade, man. And yeah, nothing goes up forever, nothing goes down forever. Man, that return, quite a run. RIOFF, I got it up. Tim, thank you so much, man. I appreciate the education, the update as always, and we look forward to talking to you on Thursday.
All right, talk to you then. Thanks a lot.
Take care. Thanks.